Welcome into the Toyota Lounge. This is the DNVR Broncos Podcast, and today is a special one because Zach is gone. He's up in the mountains, I believe. I think they left at like 7 this morning, driving somewhere. Todd is gone because he's speaking at some conference for people who are in different places in life than me. And that means that we've got Dre here. Oh, because RK's gone too. Usually Friday's RK's day. I don't even know where he is.
So if you saw the Buffs show, he's at a mustache-only golf tournament. So, yeah, it's us, man.
Yeah.
Finally, we got to talk some ball.
I know. I'm really excited. And because today I get to run the show,
yes,
we're getting weird. This one, I guess if you guys are watching, you know this already. We're talking roster bubble hot takes. We're digging into like the deep groups, the groups that are shallow, who's a lock to make the team, and then we're gonna get kind of weird with it, with some conspiracy theory type stuff about who could make the team, who won't make the team. Yeah. And we'll wrap things up with a draft of the players most on the roster bubble. Who's the closest to 50-50 to make the team?
Yeah, we got to get into some rules with that.
Yeah, we do, because it's a weird one.
Yeah, do you go safer or do you go longest shot? Because then it looks better if you're proven right.
That's true. Well, see, the thing is,
I think you could almost we should have tiered these players.
We should have.
And there's greater risk, but if this so and so hits,
you could still do it technically.
Well, we almost just need to schedule the vote for the end of the year, or
that's right. That's right.
We'll see. That's the thing, and so if we don't actually have the answers, it's tough to say who won and who lost. Just like the real draft.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what it is. Ooh, we already got somebody in chat talking about Lavelle Bailey. We're getting into Lavelle Bailey today.
Wow.
What have you been up to, Dre?
So much. Yesterday was crazy, unbelievable. You guys got cordon and were able to break that news. And I was watching tennis this morning and was sadly disappointed. So I'm ready to bounce back. It's gonna be a great crew, great show. I'm excited, Hank. I'm excited. Yeah. My girls to the zoo today.
No way. Without you?
Yeah, I'm here. You needed me.
Damn. Oh yeah, because they close early. They close at 5 now.
Hot, man. There was a heat warning at the zoo. Your favorite place? Yeah.
The thing is, the animals probably don't want to be out there too much.
Right. Also, could we get these likes up? Come on.
I know.
Come on. Big day yesterday. Let's celebrate Friday.
Yes.
Friday vibes, hardcore football talk, and getting weird and having fun. That deserves a like. Come on, in the Toyota chat. Come one, come all. Also, if you're watching us on Twitter, jump over on YouTube. It's a better platform, easier to use, and you can join us in the Toyota chat, which is always fun.
Yep. Let's just start with the big picture here. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the Broncos roster, where do you see the toughest decisions? I mean, where are they the deepest? Where are they going to be losing guys who they're going to struggle to keep on the practice squad?
That's a good one. I think secondary, you might have some opportunities there where there's a lot of depth. It's going to be so valuable on special teams to have more of those guys. Yep. And I think that's where you're going to have to make some interesting decisions with, the Turner Yells of the world, the JL Skinners, and on down the line, some of the undrafted free agents that we'll get into. Corner's going to be really interesting, you know? This, guys like Damari Mathis.
Yeah.
And Henry. These speed backs, guys like Blake Watson, and how do players like that, speed backs and speed wide receivers, factor into this new return rule? Do those guys become more valuable? How much do the Broncos value them? How much do other teams value them? I think those are kind of 3 key positions I'm looking at where I feel like the Broncos' depth is good, but, you take 1 or 2 pieces away, you feel quite different.
Yep. And I think big picture, the Broncos' depth is underrated. I think that they have a bunch of guys who you want to keep developing. The issue is still just the starters. I mean, you look at let's just say the cornerback situation where you have Riley Moss and you have Levi Wallace and Damari Mathis, and you like having all of those guys around. You aren't sure that you actually want one of them to start, though. And you really hope by the end of the year, we're talking about how awesome it is that they found this guy to start opposite Pat Surtain, but there's no guarantee. If all of a sudden those are your backups, those are the guys who bring on the bench or, have a few starts over the course of the season because of injuries or whatever may happen, you really like that. It's just that front level that you're not so sure about. Look at linebacker with Cody Barton and Jonas Griffith in the middle. One of those two guys is a starter.
Yeah.
If those are your two backups, you might have the best backup linebackers in the NFL.
Really?
I think so. I think when you look at like the two guys you bring off the bench, the thing is one of those guys is a starter. And in that case, given what we've seen so far, you'd say that second starting inside linebacker is probably one of the 5 worst going into the season when you're just looking at production to this point. Now, again, Jonas Griffith could break out. Cody Barton, Sean Payton said a bunch of nice things about him, about how they think he grew last year, got more opportunities, and there's still more to come, which isn't the way that I've looked at him because I think he's 28 now and I think he started for the first time like 4 years ago in Seattle. He was their starter. So I kind of saw him as a he is what he is guy, but maybe that's wrong. So big picture, I like a lot of the guys that they have to develop. I think when you look at the 53rd guy on the roster after the cut down, it's gonna be somebody I'm excited to see make the team.
Agreed.
And so I do think the way that people talk about the Broncos' depth is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's more the trickle down effect of there are some areas in the starters that then make you feel less good about the backups, as you just illustrated with the linebackers. Another area I'd say I'm worried a little bit about the depth is that front 3 on defense.
Okay.
But I don't think you really have any tough practice squad decisions because most of those guys are just vets.
Yeah. So it's interesting you bring that up because I see the point. So you start Zach Allen, DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really good group. We're talking just 3-4 front. Like you really like having those guys. I think when you look around the league, more so again, it's like the third guy being Zach Allen, DJ Jones. It's kind of tough to say who even is that third guy. When you look at the third starter in a 3-4 around the league,
DJ Jones just for third round value. I would say you need Franklin Myers to play closer to what he was 2 years ago than the last couple seasons, and you need Zach Allen to be the guy we saw in the second half of the year, not the guy we saw in the first half of the year. And you're really relying a lot on DJ Jones, arguably an undersized nose.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to talk about him quite a bit later. But then you look at the backups. Malcolm Roach is going to be kind of your number 4. And he's versatile. You can play him in the middle.
Right.
Again, it's an undersized nose. Or bump him around to like the 3-tech, even 5-tech. After that, though, Angelo Blackson has looked really good in OTAs. Again, we've seen 3 practices. It doesn't mean he's an awesome player. He's going to be this productive in the future. You remember, like last year in training camp, Jonathan Harris was great. Like he earned a roster spot, and you got to the season, and he wasn't able to do what you'd hoped he'd do.
Yeah.
So Angelo Blackson, I think that's the difference between us. Is I've gotten to the point where I think he might even be in front of Malcolm Roach in the rotation. And for those of you who don't know him, comes over from Jacksonville. I think he's 31 now, so he's been in the league quite a while. Before that was with the Cardinals with Vance Joseph. So there's the tie. That's why he came in here. And so I think that those are kind of
guy there as well, right?
Yep. I think he's had like the occasional start throughout his career. I don't know that he's ever had a season as a starter, even when he got into the league. I mean, that'd be 7-8 years ago now.
That sounds right.
But if you see those 5 as solid, which I do, you really only have one more guy in the rotation. Maybe a 7th makes the roster. And like game day inactive, potentially, depending on practice squad spots. But between Matt Henningsen and Elijah Garcia, I like that as a final piece of rotation. Matt Henningsen's kind of played that role in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Last year in particular got bumped up. And
actually thought last year he showed way more flashes than I thought he would when they drafted him in the 7th round. I fully admit I did not think that was a great pick. And Henningsen has come around in the last calendar year, it's felt like.
Yep. And then Elijah Garcia, just super talented. Like big, long guy who is explosive.
Pause.
There we go. Thanks, Todd. Because last year, because that's the Todd move.
I wouldn't have done that if not for Todd.
Exactly.
It's Todd's legacy.
It is Todd's legacy. Todd's coming back Monday, by the way. Elijah, just don't want to scare anybody out there. Don't want to scare anybody.
He's a former Broncos captain, too. I'm not trying to discredit other legacies he has. He just also has this legacy.
I like to imagine him just like Vic Fangio meeting, says whatever he says, and Todd just says pause in the middle. But that's a thought that's crossed my mind. Elijah Garcia, they've spoken really highly of him in the past.
26, Rice University.
Yep, has made a couple plays in OTAs. Like the batted balls are always there. Like you have a little bit of rush. But yeah, it's like if he's your starter, you're scared. If he's your 6th guy in your rotation, I like the upside.
Which, honestly, it sounds like he's more like the 7th guy.
Yeah, probably. You would expect him there. So I'm pretty happy with it.
I mean, that's a great example of where Franklin Myers really raises all boats.
And then
how
on top
one
of that,
starter can really swing the depth of an entire position.
And then there's the versatility of John Franklin Myers, too, which this is kind of derailing into a John Franklin Myers conversation, but that's fine because I love those. He was a 4-3 defensive end his entire career before he got here, I believe. There might have been 1 year early on.
The Jets are running kind of a hybrid.
Okay.
I think that's really
interesting.
More of an odd front more often than not.
But there's a lot of examples of him playing, without his hand in the dirt.
Yes.
There's a lot of footage of him lining up wide, rushing the edge.
As a true D end. Exactly.
Yeah. And so that's where I like the idea of bumping him inside, but I also love that when you want to play a nickel defense against, 1st and 10, they've got 11 personnel. You want to be able to stop the run. If Cody Barton's a starter, he's more of a cover guy. If you put John Franklin Myers out there as a defensive end instead of putting a Nick Benito out there, all of a sudden you feel really strong and tough in the trenches. And so that's where, first of all, it's just nice to have that X factor on game days to kind of pick and choose who you want where. But it can help with some team building things as well. Especially, you don't have Drew Sanders. You might need him more out there.
Yeah.
If Matt Henningsen and Elijah Garcia look like really good players, well, you can find more snaps for them by bumping John Franklin Myers outside. So I like that versatility and the ability to kind of shift how the defense is built.
Yeah, and Franklin Myers wasn't just an added need for more depth in that front 3. I also thought that front 7 was lacking more of a power defensive end, a power edge rusher to kind of spot Jonathan Cooper. It was kind of Jonathan Cooper.
Yep.
And then a bunch of more finesse, speed edge rushers. And now with Franklin Myers, you have another option to lean into an even bigger defensive end and edge. And that also, that allows your front to be way more multiple.
Totally.
To now, when you are in nickel, that 4-man front feels like a much more real 4-man front than just basically an adapted 3-man front with stand-up edges with their hands in the ground.
Yep, exactly. Real quick, 2 deepest groups, I think. Number 1, I think, is obvious. It is the running backs. We touched on that a little bit. I'm excited to dig into how that all fits together. To me, if you're just ranking the deepest groups, running back is a clear number 1. Receiver is probably number 2.
Oh, I'd take receiver over running back.
Really?
In a heartbeat.
The thing is, I like running back 5, which is Blake Watson, in theory. And if it's not Blake Watson, then it's Samaje Perine, And I think I do really like the receiver depth.
But isn't wide receiver 5
8.
Sean Reynolds?
Definitely, but I feel like running back 5 is kind of the equivalent of like receiver 8. Receiver 8.
Just so because you agree, receiver's deeper.
Yeah, I just think it's a competition. Like Blake Watson versus Brandon Johnson. I'm a little more hyped about Blake Watson.
Let's go tier by tier.
Okay. Oh,
Can we
okay.
do that
Let's
on the other side?
Yeah, we should probably do it on the other side. We have an awesome new partner.
Oh my gosh.
UC Health.
Ever heard of them?
Oh, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
You might remember.
Pretty big deal.
Would have been last summer.
Are you doing a bit? I thought it was good. You may have remembered when Cortland Sutton was on our show.
Well, yeah, you may have remembered that. Hopefully you were watching.
Talking about healthy swings.
If not,
When
you should
was
probably
that?
go watch that right now.
Yeah, go check that out.
Last summer, though.
Great show.
Yeah, after the show, come back, do what you got to do.
Totally.
I woke up in the middle of the night.
Yes.
And all my lights were off because it was nighttime.
Okay,
Very
yeah.
tired. Very tired, very thirsty.
Yeah,
Wanted to go get a
wow.
water.
Okay, awesome.
Did not want to have to go to the effort of turning a light on.
Okay.
I'd left a dumbbell on the floor. So I'm just like
gosh.
walking out there, bang, broke 3 of my
Ouch.
toes.
Oh, no.
2 broken, 1 just had a little hairline fracture.
no.
I went to UC Health.
Yeah, and they took good care of you?
Oh, they took great care of me. Great
That's
doctors,
amazing, man.
Great nurses. And honestly, if I showed you all of my toes right now, you would not be able to see which 3 were broken.
Ugh.
Yeah.
You should slam your nose on that dumbbell next, and they'd fix it.
They would. Actually, that's...
I say that with love, of course. And then their healthy swings coming up.
Exactly.
You
That's
guys
the
are
other
going to
thing.
be at Coors Field.
Yeah, so we're doing our show from Coors Field on
My goodness.
Wednesday.
Live
It'll be Wednesday
podding.
afternoon. It's going to be a crazy one because, first of all, we'll be at practice that day, so there'll be a
Yeah.
whole bunch of notes
Yeah.
from Cortland Sutton's second practice. And on top of that, we're going to see if maybe we could talk to a couple of these guys because
Right.
there are a bunch of football players who are expected to participate. Cortland Sutton, Garrett Bowles, Jaleel McLaughlin, Jarrett Stidham, Will Lutz, Matt Henningsen, Adam Troutman, Quinn Miners, Damari Mathis, Jonathan Cooper. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's like a
Nice.
bracket-style home run derby. They're raising money for Next Chapter, which is an organization supports veterans, their families. I saw a couple years ago they raised like $255,000 for a charity, which is a big number. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
deal.
So shout out UC Health, shout out Healthy Swings, and
Dude.
shout out Next Chapter.
Damn straight.
Circle K.
Oh, not. Okay, Zach Street said different things, but
It did?
Circle K we can definitely do. You know what it is. Circle K, what a great time to be a Circle K member. Get in on that QR code right now and Polar pop it up this summer. Nothing like being stuck in traffic. It's super hot. Our cars just bake out here in the parking lot. And then pulling over at a Circle K, getting yourself a Polar Pop, getting some of your favorite snacks, punching your number in on the member thing, getting a discount off gas. If you're a new member, first 5 fill-ups, discounts on gas. They're awesome, man. They've been so fantastic to work with. And, you know, they're just the spot to stop at. I've got a new fancy Circle K by me, and it's even got our insignia on the back door. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's legendary, man. They have my favorite snack from there. You ever had the gummy like burgers and pizzas? Mm-hmm. You don't find those everywhere.
No, you do not.
They're
It's
very good.
stuff.
Very good at Circle K. Sign up with the QR code on screen or visit circlek.com/inner-circle for more information on how to become an Inner Circle member.
Yeah, I mentioned to you before the show, I had to take my girlfriend to the airport at 6:15 this morning. But that means that for the next 3 days, I need to fend for myself. Circle K is going to be on the list for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, totally.
they've got a lot of good.
Totally, okay.
I love Circle K.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Tiers.
back to, let's go through.
Wide receiver 1 v running back 1. Javonte Cortland.
I go Cortland.
Yeah.
See, so my team.
proven NFL resume.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
I don't think this is much of a discussion.
Yep.
Wide receiver 2 v running back 2. Let's say Jaleel versus Tim Patrick.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that you could pick any. There's a bunch.
I know.
But yeah,
2 through 4 wide open.
I'm gonna call it a wash. It's a question of how much Tim Patrick's injury scares you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
how much, and Jaleel's upside.
Yep. No,
And I think I'll call it a wash.
I think so. 1 zip still wide receiver advantage. RB 3 v wide receiver 3. So what? Samaje
Say Samaje.
versus Marvin?
Ooh, probably. Oh goodness.
If we gave it to Core on proven,
that is true.
I think we maybe should give it to Samaje. I think Samaje's on the bubble as much as anyone we're about to list off.
I think so too, which is crazy because he was
and Marvin
arguably
is one of the locks at those two positions to make the roster.
Definitely. And Samaje was arguably the number 2 receiving back in the league last year. By the numbers, he's pretty clearly top 3. And it's it's a strange. There's a lot going on, but
valuable third down running back.
But also, if Marvin just goes for 1,000 this year, then that's an interesting one for sure.
I mean, and I think on down the line, you'd feel about the same.
Yeah,
with maybe a slight wide receiver advantage.
There's also like more receivers on the field though, more on the roster.
Yeah, no, that's
which
true.
Is a dynamic. But yeah, I do think that those are the two. I think the third deepest position is where I struggle. Quarterback?
I mean, funny enough.
I mean, there's like a weird case to be made.
I think you start talking guard and safety.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive guard and safety. I think offensive guard is probably your best starters of the bunch.
Yeah. But even like cornerback, you could make a case. Like if you look at it as like...
Yeah, no, that's true.
Pat, Jaquan.
Yeah. No,
then you hit Wallace, Moss, Mathis, Abrams, Drain. Like
I'd take corner over safety, come to think of it.
Obviously, Drew Sanders is healthy. You look at edge, but without him, it's a little scarier.
And similar to the wide receiver running back conversation, more cornerbacks see the field, so you're going to feel better about them than the guard room.
You could make a case for center, but you're just going in blind to that. No. The thing is, your third center is probably Sam Mustipher, who has starts. Like as a third center, like you only have 2 on the team, you know.
I would argue every position but tight end ahead of center.
Okay.
And even tight end, I think I'd lean more tight end than center.
I mean, again, because like you're talking,
I
Nate
know,
Atkins
but Henry,
is tight end 4.
0 proven NFL anything at that position.
Proven. Yeah.
You can't say that about any other position on the Broncos roster.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you're looking depth, you're not worried about who number 1 is. You know, number 2 is where you start to want, and then number 3, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're giving a little too much credit to center 3.
That's probably fair. All right, let's start getting into this, and we'll start on the defensive side with, I don't know, we called this roster bubble hot takes. On the defensive side of the ball, do you have any kind of crazy beliefs about how this is going to go?
As far as cuts go?
I'm keeping it kind of open. Well, let me throw this out there too. Sean Payton said last year that because of the way the practice squad works now, it's not a 53-man roster. You look at it as a 69-man roster because you have the 16 guys in the practice squad. And this year, Thomas Yasmin's going to be he's basically a lock to be on the practice squad because
international spot.
Exactly, because you get a free spot, so you get 70 guys. And so that's where it gets weird because you look at things like
who else applies for those?
That's it, because you only get one. So they had signed the Australian punter as well, but they gave the designation to Yasmin.
And I know Thomas Incoom didn't grow up. Like his family immigrated to Canada.
That's right.
I'm almost certain, yes.
I forgot about that.
Okay, well,
no, because
save the Thomas Incoom talk.
I'll start with Thomas Incoom. If we're talking hot takes for the roster. So
no, I think the front 7 has a really interesting trickle down post Drew Sanders' injury. What the math works out at linebacker, how the versatility of the edges who can be moved to off-ball linebacker, and the front 3 guys who can be moved to edge. It all has a very connected trickle down. So I think that's the most fascinating part to kind of figure out. And then you have a lot of young edges.
Yeah.
More so than front 3 or off-ball linebacker guys.
Yep. One of those edges being Thomas Incoom, who was a big addition last year in undrafted free agency. One of their top, in terms of money they gave out, one of their top guys.
The richest.
It might have been number 1.
Oh, no, Jaleel must have.
Jaleel would have been up there.
But they were 1 and 2. But Thomas Incoom, Central Michigan, phenomenal career. The last 2 years he played in the MAC. Kind of new to the sport, grew up in Canada, and a late riser. Now, his motor, just the natural leverage he plays with, the hands are so natural, super violent, long hands, if I'm not mistaken, Hank. I like him against the run. He really beat up on MAC offensive linemen and then got a Senior Bowl invite, and you could tell that polish, that pass rushing arsenal wasn't quite where it needed to be yet.
Yep.
And I kind of assumed he would be on the practice squad last year. That's what happens. Now, year 2, how much has he taken to that NFL coaching, and how much can he compete against guys like Ronnie Perkins and so on in that edge room, you know?
Yep.
And he feels big enough to where he could maybe play as a defensive end in a front 3 as well from time to time.
Yeah, so before the draft, 6'2", 262.
That's almost JFN size.
Yep, so 4 years playing
JFM,
Division II,
yes.
went to Eastern Michigan. He was the highest paid undrafted free agent for the Broncos, 11.5 sacks his final year. But again, like, just big, strong, and just bullied guys. And the whole bullying tackles works in the MAC a lot better than it does in the NFL because all of a sudden you're going up against Garrett Bowles instead of whoever it is out there.
Oh, no, I mean, NFL offensive tackles, they're amazing.
They are very good.
True specimens, yes.
So you were kind of waiting for him to figure out how to transition from that just because his skill set, like that's why he wasn't drafted, just because it does that translate.
More of a speed to power than like a bendy edge, dip the shoulder, super agile 3-cone drill guy.
So I didn't know him well until the end of last season. I had a really long conversation with him. I don't think it was locker clean out day. For some reason, the locker room was empty. So I was like, what's up, Thomas? So we hung out. He's born in Ghana, didn't move to the U.S. until 12. I didn't even realize. I had totally forgotten in that conversation. But he's fired up. Oh, you know what it was? It was the day of the top 100 voting. So you bring in the ladies come in with all the sheets, or you fill out, every player fills out their top 20.
Yeah.
And so it's like number 1, I think is not going to say the bad guy's name in Kansas City. So you make a case. Justin Jefferson, best player in the NFL.
Sure.
Micah Parsons. So you fill out your top 20 and then they do all that. So I was asking him who he had in there. And so we had a long talk and he said, next year they're going to be voting for me. Like, this is going to be my name that everybody's writing down there.
Oh,
but
man.
then he has like this great positive attitude. He was a really cool guy.
Fired up.
Yeah. I think when you look at the rest of the guys in the group, Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, Jonah Ellis, there's 4 who are locks.
Yes, sir.
After that, Ronnie Perkins would be next up. And then you've got Incum, if you're just going rankings going in. First of all, there's a chance they keep 6. This is something we've talked a lot about, the new kickoff rules. There's room for more bigger bodies. Sean Payton even said last week, you could be playing offensive linemen on kick return if you wanted to, which is a different podcast where we just dream about Quinn Miners lining up in the middle of that kick return to you and just blowing.
That sounds magical.
That sounds awesome. But because of that, there might be more room because these typically are really good special teamers. And even if Thomas Incum doesn't, you don't need to be great to get this job. Like, I really like Ronnie Perkins too, but that's the guy you got to beat out. And then you got to convince him to keep 5.
Also, I think Perkins is more in the... There's 2 pools of edge rushers for me, right? There's the Jonathan Cooper, maybe JFM, maybe Ellis, power edge rushers. Incum firmly in that category. And there's the speed, finesse, just like line them up wide and they'll beat you to the corner. Bonito, Browning... And I think Jonah Ellis, as of now, is more in the finesse category. So Incum, because, and as is Ronnie Perkins, Incum has a better shot because he's in the other pool of edge rushers, the more speed to power guys. So that's where that gets intriguing. Also, how much could a guy like a Nick Bonito, like a Ronnie Perkins, from time to time be useful as a third down inside linebacker?
Yep.
Just someone who's really good at blitzing off the middle. And, it's not too different from like what Drew Sanders' role was last year. And look, a guy like Bonito, plenty athletic to drop in coverage.
Oh, totally.
Plenty of sideline to sideline athleticism to surprise a quarterback and do that, when he's been brought on the Mike Blitz the last 3 third downs.
And the big question for that stuff. So first of all, Sean Payton talks a lot about the rush tag. Like, you go through who on the roster, you look at what they do, and then you throw in like a tag if you could see them in rush situations. So third downs, like he just said this week, PJ Locke is a guy who has that rush tag. because obviously we've seen it on blitz over and over and over again. He had, 5 crucial drive-ending sacks late in the fourth quarter last year? Or I guess if you throw in an interception, they're 2 plays, mostly sacks. There are a lot of guys on this team who you could have green dog blitz the A-gaps and cover the running back. So the idea is like running back goes out to a route, you mirror him, running back stays in, you blitz. Yep. That's like a very typical piece of a third down package. There's a lot of guys who can do that with the running back. How many guys can do that with the tight end? Because it's really easy to say, like, Nick Bonito can do that. He can mirror the running back out there. PJ Locke can do that. He can mirror the running back out there. He can. Drew Sanders is a guy we have that. Alex Singleton's a guy like that. Well, over and over. But eventually,
this is where Drew Sanders' value comes.
Exactly.
Drew Sanders, of the guys you just listed, is the one guy who has the proper combination of size and athleticism to actually line up and potentially cover a tight end.
That is the one thing you knew that you were getting out of him this year.
Yepers. And it's why I think guys like Jonas Griffin and Cody Barton are intriguing because they do fit that.
Exactly. J.L. Skinner.
Yeah.
But then the question becomes, obviously you can't have 4 of those guys covering the running back. Somebody needs to take the tight end. And that's going to be the separator between, like, do you trust PJ Locke one-on-one, third downs to do that? Like, you rush everybody else. We're going man right here. Do you trust J.L. Skinner to do that?
Right.
I don't think Nick Bonito's going to be that guy. No. So unless somebody solidifies themselves as the ability to take the tight end,
who is that fifth DB you trust to do that?
Totally.
That's the conversation.
Caden Stearns. It could be J.L. Skinner. Like, Brandon Jones is good at that, but you're kind of just assuming that he's going to be one of those.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of these young corners.
You could go corner heavy. Yeah, so, Jaquan's great at that. You put him on a tight end or rush. I mean, a little small, but... So yeah, you see this Inku, going back to Inku in particular, we talked about with John Franklin Myers, the ability to be that big edge. Thomas Incoom also fits that mold, and I think that's what gives him a more clear path to the roster than some of these guys.
Right.
So we got one name out. We got a lot more names to get to, but first...
Yes, so many.
Got to tell you guys about Vestibule. If you want to bet on Baron Browning, this is a great way to do it because you can invest in him. Essentially, the way it works is you buy a share in Baron Browning, and then a portion of his contract goes to the people who bought those shares. So it pays out. And the idea is, I think it starts at like $10 or so, and you buy in. You get whatever portion, but you can also buy and sell, just like with the stock market.
Right.
So he gets to... the halfway point, you get through 8 weeks, and he's already got 8 sacks. Maybe you could use that $10 investment, sell it, and turn it into $15, $20. So it's a really cool thing. And Baron Browning, a Denver Bronco, is their first athlete. They're going to be launching a whole bunch more, which is, I think, really cool.
Yeah.
And big thing with Baron, obviously, contract is up after this year. So this is the prove it year.
Yeah, it's such an interesting concept for like ball knowers like us, investing in young players, guys who have appreciating stocks. It's really cool. Check them out and see what they bring to the table there.
Yep. Baron's IPO is live right now. Shares are available for purchase, but they are limited. So go download the Vestibule app, Vestible app right now and invest.
Yeah, and shout out to Circa Sportsbook. Go download the Circa Sportsbook Colorado app. We were so impressed by the odds that they give out on their sportsbook day in, day out. They're not trying to get you with the juice. They're the place to go once you're done with, the sign-up offers, the stuff like that at other spots. You sign up with Circa, you get the best odds. And you place your bets, get into some hardcore betting, tight money line splits, low hold model. What's cool is the high app limits and the transparency they have.
Yep.
Very easy to use. It's all just right there. And then they've got awesome customer service. We've found it on the sales side, and I found it as a customer as well. I know Ryan, when he first signed up on March Madness morning, was kind of having some issues. Circa Sportsbook helpline took care of him right away, and he was hammering that home all March long. Download the app at circasports.com. Find their Circa Sportsbook Colorado app. Circa Sports bets can only be made while physically located in Colorado. Must be 21 or older. All rights reserved. Circa Sports Colorado encourages you to gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER or visit problemgamblingcolorado.org.
I want to close out the Thomas Incoom thing with one. I feel like we need the hot take. I'll say Thomas Incoom is on the 53-man roster at some point this season. You know, it's kind of tough to say boldly that any of these real hot takes are going to be on their week one, just because the question is, who can you get to the practice squad? And I think they'll believe they can get Thomas Incoom to the practice squad unless he has a crazy preseason.
I know.
So I'm going to say at some point this season, by the end of the year, he's on the 53-man roster.
I'm with it, man. I think we're like maybe the two biggest Thomas Incoom fans in the world. At least
he has two parents.
Out of Central Michigan, and who don't share the Incoom name.
Yeah. Okay, not
potentially.
Named Incoom,
not Chippewas and not Incoom by last name. I think we're right up there. So that's not a hot take to me, but to the rest of the Toyota chat, it might very well be. I'm with you, man.
Also, I see Jose dropped. They won't keep both Browning and Cooper. They'll trade one contract. That's kind of.
I don't think one precludes the other.
The tough thing is, I don't think they'll pay them both after this year, just because they've got you got Drew.
Yeah.
Like one of them's going to be gone. And
how much money is Cooper going to command though? They're also going to have.
I would say both are getting
$8
million a year.
No,
if I think on average.
Really?
I mean, Cooper had 8.5 sacks last year. You know, Baron Browning had 4.5. Missed some time. So I'd say that's about it.
I mean,
so
Browning's upside's tremendous, but you got to see
he
could be worth a lot. He could be worth nothing next year. I mean,
definitely. So, but that's why I could see a move at the deadline. I don't think it's before the season, just because you really like those guys. If things go south, deadline could be the move. Who else you have?
Okay. My roster hot takes. We're getting right into it now.
Yeah, let's just do it. We got one segment.
Okay. Now, this is where do I go with harder? Like, do I get brownie points for picking someone who wouldn't necessarily, who's...
Yep. I think it's important to say these are hot takes. We know that these might be 10% chances, but these are things that, if they happen, you want to say, I had that in mind.
Okay, cool. I won't go scorching hot to start with, but I'll go Frank Crum, another of our favorite undrafted free agents. Wyoming left tackle, has a lot of experience, has the length to play the position.
He does.
Pause.
Shout out Todd.
Yeah, no, I was looking at Todd. And just tested out of this world at the combine. His size, athleticism combination makes him very intriguing as a jumbo package 6 offensive lineman. And a guy who, in the back of your head, you have to say, they could flex this guy who runs a 4.9 and is 6'8" in some little trick play and throw it to him on 4th and 1 or in a red zone package. In fact, my hottest take is that Frank Crum will have a target by the end of this season.
Oh, I like that.
I think that athleticism also gives him some versatility to potentially play a little offensive guard. But as a swing tackle, obviously a bit on the outside looking in right now because the Broncos have had some guys they've developed over the last few years, Quinn Bailey being one of those guys.
Yep, he was the 6th lineman last year.
I think they surprise us all. And Frank Crum, who matched Blake Watson with the highest rookie bonus of any Bronco, and I think tied for 2nd highest of anyone in the NFL.
They wound up tied for 3rd in terms of guaranteed money. Both were a little under $300,000.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a
$250,000
million
if I believe.
Yeah.
Frank Crum's making this. Yep.
I like it. First of all, can you think of a certain head coach who uses 6th offensive lineman more than anybody else in potentially NFL history?
Is it Sean Payton?
It's Sean Payton.
Really?
Yep. Nope. That's one of those staples of what makes Sean unique. He does that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, which is...
I love that.
I mean,
you
we saw
gave
it a
me
bunch last year, Quinn
flashbacks
Bailey.
to my Bill Musgrave film room when the Broncos promoted him to offensive coordinator.
What a time. The good old days.
The good old days indeed.
So, tough part here. Obviously, you got the 2 starters. Matt Parrott is who you brought in to kind of be this guy. A prospect we both really liked.
Former UConn kid, another guy who tested out of this world. Never quite figured it out in the NFL,
Nope.
but in a power scheme in Denver as a backup, I actually really like Pert.
Also tough
it's a good
because
call.
the Giants then kept drafting tackles. Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal.
Yeah.
Still last year,
top 10 guys. Yeah.
barely got on the field for the worst offensive line in the league, which is
Right.
a red flag.
Right. Usually those guys can at least slip to guard, and he didn't do that.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And again, I'll add, and I hate doing this because like I haven't been super locked in the offensive line. There's no pads. There's a lot of things to watch. I don't have like, I'm grading this based off of like the 10% of things that are actually happening on the field with the offensive line. And we only see 3 of the practices. He showed up in my notes with more negatives than any other offensive lineman so far. So that's just a thing that has been going on.
O-line first week on the job in the NFL. Like,
exactly.
That's to be expected.
And that's Parrott.
I'm sorry.
Which
Yes,
opens
yes,
the
yes.
door. But then after Parrott, Quinn Bailey, we kind of talked about. Interestingly, he was the 6th lineman.
Yeah.
But when McGlinchey got hurt, it was Cam Fleming who was the backup tackle. So their swing tackle's Fleming. Bailey's the 6th lineman, which you would think it's the same guy. It's not. Also, Alex Palshevsky, a guy who has been a fan. So I see the path. But it's going to be a battle. I don't mind that one. I'll throw... let's see, how weird do we get right off the bat? I'll say Samaje's traded. I think Samaje is one of those names that, like, you just look at all of the guys there. Javonte, Esteban, Jaleel, and Blake Watson, who we really like. Blake Watson potentially... Ooh, here's another hot take I'm bouncing around.
It's another hot take.
His first snap as a Bronco, he's playing receiver.
That's where I think Blake Watson is very underrated. I think in this new return game format, he's the guy I see as being most valuable in that role.
Yep.
And yes, the amount of receptions he had in his college career, I really think he could be more of a yak wide receiver than really scat back in many ways.
And then you move him around, do all those things. Blake Watson one of 2 running backs in all of college football last year with at least 50 catches. Earlier on in his career, which was a really long career, I think he first appeared in like 2018. He was used pretty almost evenly as like receiver running back. Again, he's just such an athlete that when you go to Memphis, you just got to hand him the ball over and over and over again. I think that if he had played at like an SEC school, he might have fit in more as like a slot receiver because you don't need to just hand him the ball over and over and over. So there's a hot take there. I think Samaje, again, he's just so proven, and you're not getting a lot for him, but a contending team, you would just love to have somebody you trust on third down.
You free up a
what
little
he did.
cap, right?
Yeah, you save a few $1 million, you clear out some space. I think it might wind up being something that bites you in the ass in the long run, just because he is so productive on third downs with the rookie. I mean, we hear about C.J. Anderson, for example, all the value he provides, setting those pass protections, seeing things, and like kind of the brains back there. Samaje does those same things. And when you have a rookie quarterback, potentially a first-time starter at center, there is value there.
How much was Samaje's value deriving from a very specific Russell Wilson dynamic?
True.
Of kind of like extending the play and waiting for Samaje to then leak out when everyone else was covered, and just dumping it off that way.
A whole lot of it.
That really wasn't designed.
No.
Yeah.
But it was, came a lot of the time in 2-minute drills. Yeah. And he was kind of the biggest X factor for them in the 2-minute drill. Plus, top 3 among all running backs in EPA per play when targeted, and in total receiving yards. So, like, you have the volume, you have the efficiency, you have, like, the big moments. So it's...
Well, and the big thing is the pass pro value.
Yep.
That it's... Javonte will have to step up, and these younger backs will have to step up. You shouldn't feel confident about anyone having that true pass pro value, though, after Samaje on this running back room.
Michael Burton. Who
yeah.
Then you get into like could you piece it together?
True.
But we got
how much faster is Samaje than him? Right,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
So there's some weird conversation, but I'm gonna say Samaje gets traded.
Okay,
I'll throw another one out there real quick. Michael Bandy is on the 53-man roster at some point this season. I wasn't.
Really?
I wanted to go like he makes the team, or like I almost want to go Devon Vele doesn't make the team in week 1. But you just look at the other guys, and I think there's other options, guys who you could get to the practice squad easily. And so this is why I settled on was Michael Bandy at some point is on the 53-man roster. He's looked good so far. He's their only true slot receiver. You got a bunch of different guys who do different things in the slot. Michael Bandy, only like true shifty little slot receiver who's consistently finding space underneath. 2 touchdowns at the last practice we saw, both Michael Bandy.
Wow.
He started 2 games for the Chargers a couple years ago, played in 10. He has some NFL experience. I think there's a role. And I think early on he might be a 50-50 active, not active from the practice squad. Eventually I think he gets onto the 53-man roster. And again, this is a hot take.
Wow. Bless you, Yaya. Give me JL Skinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, in some ways I would argue that his the Drew Sanders injury makes him more valuable.
Yep.
He just has that size and reach beyond the athleticism and being a really good downhill safety. And I'm encouraged by how he can develop and maybe even be a bit of a hybrid box safety linebacker, even weak side linebacker for you. So maybe not the hottest, but I figured I'd get that out there.
No, I like it. Yeah, I think you got PJ Locke, Brandon Jones, Caden Stearns, and then you get DTY, Skinner, Omar Brown, the undrafted rookie from Nebraska, one of the highest paid guys. He had the first pick at training camp or OTAs. He looks good out there. So
veteran safety. I mean, he had a long career in the Big Ten there. And Turner Yell's really interesting. I think his versatility, his special team chops make him interesting. You know, versatility, I mean, he can play as a single high. I think he can play closer to the line of scrimmage. He can do some stuff in the slot for you.
Yep.
He hasn't had the best first couple years to his NFL career.
Yep.
But he's still around. And like, I don't know. Sometimes those guys in these tough positions do have a bit of an awakening by year 3. You know?
Tied for the team lead in special teams tackles this year.
Yeah,
so,
and I mean, that's incredibly valuable.
I'll stick with DBs. Art Green. He was a super toolsy prospect last year. Super toolsy. Like close to 6'2", 4.34 speed, 4.35 speed. Has made a couple plays. One where it's just this drag route. He stays in stride, dives, and makes the breakup. There was another one where he just blew up a screen, which I like the combination. That one shows you're seeing what's happening. Super raw coming out of Houston, though.
Yeah.
As a last year as a rookie.
Speed guy.
I know.
Yeah.
And you think about who do you want on the boundary. They've got a lot of guys who are 5'10", 5'11". Art Green has the potential. So it's tough because I don't know who I'm kicking out. Because I really like Tremont Smith. Tremont Smith was their best special teamer. I think Tremont Smith should have been the Pro Bowl special teamer. I talked to Tremont Smith last year, and he says he thinks he and Riley Moss were the best gunner duo in the entire NFL. He had them number 1. And in watching them, he can make that claim. I mean, there's a reason the Broncos had one of the 2 or 3 best special teams units, depending on whose rankings you like. I think Tremont makes the team, too.
Wow.
You wonder, though, Art Green, size, speed, what does that mean for a gunner? Especially if Riley isn't a starter and you get to keep playing him in that gunner role, then maybe the 2 of them together makes sense. You also throw in the fact that, again, kickoffs, kick coverage, bigger guys are going to be better now. There's more role just because you don't need to be so speedy and quick getting all the way down. Art Green, that size, might even make more sense there than Riley does. So you could be getting an upgrade, not like roster-wise, but that's if Riley's a starter, you use Art Green in that role.
Right.
I'll say, like similar to, who did I say this about? Oh, Bandy. I'll say Art Green is on the roster at some point this season. First half of the season. I'll go a little hotter.
Nice.
Yeah. First half of the season, he's on the roster.
I like that. He's intriguing. He's a fun little roll of the dice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, real quick, and then we'll go rapid fire before we hit this draft. Oh, no. Yeah. Here's your note. That's where they go. We go rapid fire. JL Skinner, I had him in there too. he starts a game.
Oh, yeah.
At some point, he starts a game this season. Thomas Yasmin, this isn't a hot take.
There's just so many injuries in the secondary that I think Art Green and Skinner just have good chances.
Exactly. One more, and I'm not willing to make this my hot take, but I think
Thomas Yasmin, what's the hot take?
He has no chance.
No.
You get the extra practice squad spot. He's going to the practice
squad. That's exactly right.
You almost are you're very willing to take that gamble. Again, like Sean said, it's a 69-man roster now. You get the 4 activations. Every guy in the practice squad can play 4 times. Then you got to get him on. It's a 70-man roster. If Yasmin isn't on the active roster, you keep him on the practice squad.
Right.
He is a lock for the practice squad.
Yeah.
I'll throw again. I don't want this to be mine because I really like DJ Jones, but DJ Jones doesn't make the team. I think is a fair hot take to have, given that you save almost $10 million.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And maybe it makes more sense as like a trade deadline move. You know, if things don't go well, you get rid of him there, and instead you save like $5 million.
Right.
Trading him halfway through, but it's a hot take that should be probably mentioned.
Okay. I like it.
Stidham is cut. I think that's a little bit hotter now that Zach Wilson looks terrible so far. But
Early.
It is very
early. Lavelle Bailey.
oh, we haven't hit him yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this linebacker unit, there's a lot of opportunity.
If you want to go sign Cody Barton, you're going to like Lavelle Bailey, which obviously they did because he's another one of their, like, maybe 3rd highest paid undrafted free agent. He and Omar Brown, I can't remember who's 3 and who's 4. But
they're right up there. And I mean, that competition between Bailey and Sternad as that kind of cover linebacker specific guy is going to be interesting, I think.
Yep. And Bailey, undrafted free agent out of Fresno State.
Yep.
Undersized, speedy. You see, there's one play in particular. He picks it off a pass in Tampa 2, and it's like a deep Tampa 2. Like he almost like turns and runs and just drops like 15 yards. Quarterback can't believe he's back there. Obviously, he throws the pick. It's like, oh, there really is some senses here. On top of that, the mobility's obvious. Big questions in the run game.
Yeah.
But can you find a role, or at least think that you're going to find a role next year after?
Well, and that's where DJ Jones is so crucial, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Their run defense was not great without him, and especially if these are the linebackers you have behind them, you're probably a little more worried about that run defense. So I do think DJ Jones, that would be a tough cut for how the roster is presently constructed, unless Roach and Blackson really step up.
Yeah.
And then Blake Watson. We've mentioned Blake Watson, but yeah, I think he makes the roster.
I think so too.
I think he takes Perine's spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard. There's 5 guys I really want on this team. And honestly, I like Tyler Beatty too, but it's just.
I like Tyler Beatty.
Yeah, that's the thing. But he's number 6, and I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, I just think
practice squad again, probably.
Estime Williams as your power backs and J-Mac and Watson as your scat backs.
Yeah, you make it work. Okay, let's hit this draft. We got 8 minutes. We're going to have to fly through.
Okay.
And this draft is the players most on the roster bubble. So the idea is the closest to 50-50. The biggest toss-ups to actually to make the team. Again, snake draft, just the 2 of us. You want first or second?
Why don't you start us off?
Okay, I'll start. I'll throw Samaje out there. Samaje Perine. I'll say 50-50 on the dot.
Okay. Give me... Who's more? Give me Justin Cernad.
That's a good one.
And DTY.
Yep.
Galarian Turner Yell. Cernad's been on the bubble for 3 years.
I know. And
It's the most on the bubble guy ever.
This would have been a good hot take. But I'd say either he's cut or he's a special teams captain.
Wow.
There's a hot take.
That is a great hot take.
That's a good hot take. Either cut or a captain. I'll say, give me Tremon Smith.
Yeah, great one.
Yep, I think that
Great
you
one.
just have to.
He's so in that range.
He is. Yep, Tremon Smith, and then I will take. I'll take Sam Mustipher. I kind of hate that pick because I think the thing is, I think he's 3rd in the center competition, but I almost think that the backup you want somebody.
How's Gargulio factor into that, or Throckmorton, or even Quinn Bailey, who I thought could kind of play Multiple positions across the line.
They've had the 3 rotating with Wattenberg, Forsyth, Mustafer.
Interesting.
I think I'm too high on Mustafer here.
Give me Devon Vele.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And
that is a really good one.
Thank you. Lil Jordan.
Yep. I like the combination of those two. It's going to be so tough for Brandon Johnson or Jalen Virgil.
Yeah.
Special teams for Virgil's what? I think that's why there's a little more hope there. Brandon Johnson could have a great preseason also. Oh, goodness. Give me Elijah Garcia.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep.
That's a good one. And who's your 5th and final pick?
Oh, this is such a cop-out pick. Zach Wilson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I should almost match you with Stidham.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, give me Matt Pert.
Ooh. Yeah, no, that's a good one. Especially because they just brought him in, too.
Right.
And I like the competition there. Because, first of all, you'd think they keep 2 tackles. But even that's messy because Quinn Bailey is a guard and a tackle.
Yeah.
Like, you almost like him better as a guard.
Totally.
In that offense. So,
it's actually
then you got
makes him appealing.
Palshevsky, Trey Jacobs, who is a massive man and really smart. Frank Crum also. So, there's like a whole... That's going to be a fun one.
Not bad.
Also, this was a fun one. Any parting shots? Anything you want to get out there before we go?
Nate Adkins, I saw that in the chat. He was our Bay last year. Don't know what to make of Nate. The tight end conversation is really interesting. Some people are saying Dulcich should be on the bubble.
Yeah.
I guess Troutman's the one who isn't. And you have your blocking tight end still?
It's Adkins. That's why, because I'm confident they'll keep 4. But I think Adkins is your Chris Manhurts replacement.
And I think Dulcich made it out like a bandit post-draft, and he'll stay on. Yeah. And then it's everyone's favorite, Lucas Kroll.
I think Dulcich... I think I'm confident he's on the team. It's just whether he's just on the team playing or whether he's on IR. So I think if he's healthy, they keep him.
Right.
If he's not healthy, then that he's just on a list. Let's see. There was one other hot take I kind of liked. Oh well. Do we have any? We love Vele too, but I think you could also give him to the practice squad, and that's going to be a good conversation. Somebody said like other shows like him. I really like Vele. He looks like everything you could have hoped. He's smart. He finds space. He's big. He uses the size well. It's going to be. Is somebody really going to steal him from you though? Is the question when you're trying to decide like, hey, do we try to slip a Blake Watson potentially to the practice squad?
Right.
Could we just keep him instead? Super chats, there we go. Hank gets too much crap on the pod. Appreciation. So true. Broncos only. $2 to say that.
Wow.
Thoughts?
Legend, man.
Sure,
That's
you're going to give me crap.
You wanted backup of that?
I know. I was sure. See, with the other guys, they've been like giving me crap.
No, I appreciate it.
Is what it
You
is.
look for
ball,
Dre
man.
and it's like, Dre, do you think I'm
You know
good?
ball.
Yeah, I do like that. Okay, we do have like one more minute. Jalen Virgil. I mentioned this a little bit already. I really like Jalen Virgil. I mean, you just have this. It's the speed strength combination.
I think the slot guys plus Vele though kind of snatched his spot.
Yeah, I mean,
as
agree.
does Watson's versatility.
He's got practice squad written all over him. But yeah, the speed strength combination is what makes him intriguing. As almost like the backup to Lil Jordan Humphrey, who is probably the backup to a Tim Patrick.
Right.
And so that's why you say practice squad. But he has the blocking ability. We've seen him. He's been used as H-back before, as like a lead blocker, and it's gone really well. You really like him on special teams. But after a year away, you would imagine you could slip him to the practice squad.
Right.
And if the situation arises where you want him, there's a way to get him on the field. Or people wind up getting hurt. That's how football works. There's more roster spots. But I really, really, really like Jalen Virgil. Again, tore his ACL last year on a 50-yard catch. 50 yards is a long way.
Yeah.
Has the ship sailed?
Yeah, I think so, man. I'm not convinced.
I feel more that way about Brandon Johnson if I had to choose, just because less of a special teams asset. Yeah, is what it is. That's going to do it for today. We will be back on Monday from Breckenridge Brewery, the farmhouse.
Wow.
Zach will be back. Todd will be back.
Good times.
I will hopefully still be here as long as nothing crazy happens, and we will see you then.
We all silly like the mayor.